The information featured in this program is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances, needs, or objectives. Guests appearing in the program may have commercial arrangements or associations with some of the companies, organisations, or foundations mentioned. Opinions expressed by the hosts or guests are personal of nature and not to be considered as advice or an inducement to purchase products or services. Before making any investment, insurance, or financial plan decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise you on whether your decision is appropriate for you. This program is for informational purposes only. We're looking at blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, but we also have to factor in world government debt into this equation. So a lot of people understand this, but they still think, mate, Bitcoin's a bit of a fad when we do talk to them. But some are well educated and go, yeah, this is a problem. Government debt and why Bitcoin's growing and blockchain in general. Dave, what do you reckon about this from your perspective? Is that government debt feeding growth?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Certainly this problem was part of why I started getting interested in the space. But interestingly enough, I was at one of my favorite bars recently about 4 weeks ago. And I struck up a conversation with a random bloke there. In fact, he heard me talking about cryptocurrency and he was interested in the space as well. And we struck up a conversation. And it turned out that he'd bought quite a lot of it last year when the price was very low. Now, I asked him what field he was in. He's a chef, right? Didn't have too much in the way of additional education after school, but was nonetheless a very switched on person. The reason he got into the space was exactly the same reason that I got into it, which was he was concerned about the amount of money that was being printed and the amount of government debt. So I think more and more people are starting to become aware of the issues caused by the amount of money printed. And wouldn't say everybody's aware of it at this stage, but it's definitely the issues that it's causing is creating a bit of momentum towards the blockchain space.
No, definitely. And also what we're noticing is that non-traditional people are coming in to the space who see this information and take action. Are you seeing that, Mark, from your side in the US and obviously with the GBA members talking about these topics? Are you finding that, you've got financial services people coming in, obviously understand this, but you've got people, as Dave mentioned, with chefs coming into the space and buying Bitcoin because of this reason and seeing that? What's your thoughts on that?
So Dave's right. I got a similar story. We were doing, GBA was doing a podcast on it was talking about taxation and cryptocurrency. And he had a lot of, he had people from accounting firms on the call. You had individuals that had their own private investment firms, like family firms. And then you had just regular individuals. And this is funny. This guy was great. He's funny. He's actually a truck driver, and he says, and he starts asking questions about crypto. And at the time, you guys all know Sash and Meyer, right? He was asking about how safe's my money and how can I make sure that that the government doesn't get their hands on it? And Sessions bringing up, oh, you can do this and this and this, and we're like, well, hold on, we're not justifying what you're trying to do with your money. We don't want you to whitewash your cryptocurrency, all this other stuff. But that just gives you an example of individuals that are interested in this. And he said the same thing. He's interested. He wants to make sure that his retirement that he saved up is not going to go away as the government U.S. government prints more and more money. He sees the inflation. It's gonna and his dollar is not gonna be as much worth much as he goes to the store. So he's trying to offset that. He's trying to hedge. So he bought Bitcoin. He's buying other altcoins and stuff like that. So he sees the issue, and this is the person that he's trying to educate himself to protect himself for the future. And the summary says it right there that the major advanced economies, their gross debt went up 141% in 2020. And again, a lot of it has to do with the global pandemic and them trying to keep their boost up their economies, but still just trying to get out. That's 2020. We see in 2021, the U.S. government just printed another $3 trillion, and it just keeps on going up. And you know, when does it stop? A lot of people say we keep on kicking the can down the road, but when like I said this before, when you kick a can, sometime down the road, it bounces back at you. So we're going to kick it, it's going to come back at us, and we're going to have to deal with it. And if the government doesn't do it, as we see now, a lot of individuals are starting to do it themselves.
Well, it's funny you say that. It brings us on to our next graph in this section around the US M2 money stock or supply there in circulation. And it shows that from 2000 and onwards right there. Now, people say the GFC caused this printing phenomenon, right? And it went on from there. And then 2020 came along with COVID, and we saw this massive shoot up of printed money, right? And I think the numbers globally is something like 30 plus trillion, right, of all governments. But really, this printing and this expansion has happened since early 2000s, and it's been going on. So technically, you could look at Bitcoin and say it was undervalued some time ago in this, when you look at this graph. But also looking at it, that it's harder to onboard people onto Bitcoin back in the last about 10 years ago. So you couldn't actually reach that potential. But for me, this graph here demonstrates about where we're going. So this line's been going up for 20 years. What's it going to look like for the next 20 years? You know, that's the key part. What do you reckon, Dave, on this one from your point of view?
Look, to be honest, that's looking into the crystal ball. But all I can say is I don't know where it will be in 20 years. All I know is the line will almost certainly not tick down. It will keep going in an upward trajectory. And the question is, does it start going at an accelerated rate? If it starts going at an accelerated rate, that's pretty scary.
Couldn't agree more with that. So, Mark, what with your point of view, this is looking at it from a US point of view, but world governments are also following this pattern. It's not just one country, it's all countries, right? Many countries. What are your thoughts on this also, this line continuing to grow?
Oh, yeah. So what's interesting in 2020, again, you see the spike. Even during the GFC, the big financial crisis, there's hardly a blip. It just continued to gradually go up. But during the crisis in 2020, that shot up, and it's amazing. I think it's like from March, within 3 months, it went up like $6 trillion, which is crazy. That's that sharp increase. And then still getting through 2020, it continues to go up. And I think it's kind of gone up. It's kind of leveled off a little bit in 2021. But the printing of money, and the more that the government goes in debt, someone owns that debt. So and it's safe to say it's other countries that own that debt. But the age-old saying is, when the U.S. sneezes, the other economies catch the cold, right? There's a lot of countries that are pegged to the U.S. dollar that, when the pandemic happened, it really affected them. So everything started going down in their economy also, and it made them question. And I think it's Mark Carney he used to be head of the I think the ECB, or the European Bank Commission. Mark Carney said that we have to realize that we can't peg our money to the US dollar. We need to have a basket. We need to actually peg to some other ones, and not have the dollar as the primary basket for for our economy to rely on that. But so it's safe to say that not just the U.S. and not just the people that are in the crypto space are seeing it, but there's other countries that are starting to see it also, and they are starting to diversify their own portfolio, not rely on the dollar. Because I think, like Dave said, again, we can't. It's not a crystal ball, but I'll see it continue to go up. As you know, this is one crisis. We're starting to come out of it now, and hopefully nothing else happens. But if something does happen, it's gonna go up again, which is gonna again make the markets get scared, and it's going to I think it's going to actually have more people go into the crypto markets. And then what do people do with the hedge against inflation? I think they put it somewhere safe, like in Bitcoin.
I think, Mark, your point that we're starting to come out of the crisis at the moment, and I agree with that. There's because clearly, with the vaccination rate increasing, and that a fair bit more protection for people from coronavirus coming online. that's definitely helping. However, something I think that's really interesting to note, there's this massive amount of money that's been printed, this massive amount of stimulus. I don't know, there were projections from economists in the US that there were going to be 1 million new jobs created. And I think it was the last quarter, only 250,000 jobs created. So they missed that forecast by 75%. And that to me says that we're probably not done yet with the amount of stimulus that is being put into the system. Until the forecasts are starting to match the actuals, I think we will see quite a bit of activity.
Going into the summer, maybe we'll see some more. I think you're right, Dave.
That's interesting.